eccoci Tortuga con Lord Turner, chair of the Institute. I wanted to ask you, today you told us that the main measures of productivity growth and growth in general does not represent what really affects our well-being and our welfare. Can you clarify this concept and why do you think that?
I think we originally had a theory which says if you get productivity growth in one area of the economy, like agriculture, you'll get productivity growth in the areas where people move to, like manufacturing. And you can be confident that all of the product which comes out of that is correctly valued, that what people pay for it is what it's worth. And I think those assumptions, though they were only assumptions, there were always some problems with GDP, they worked well enough in the past, well enough for gross domestic product per capita, per hour, to be a good measure of how efficient we were being and of how welfare was going up. But in a whole series of ways, that is breaking down. One of the ways that it's breaking down is we have a lot of benefits to human welfare, potential benefits to human welfare, which don't necessarily show up in GDP. I mean, I show in my lecture that if during the course of the 21st century we create a wonder drug which can be produced for almost nothing, which enables us all to live to 100 completely wealthy lives, because it's produced for nothing, by the end of the 21st century, it will not be within GDP, even though it may be a far more important increase in human welfare than lots of things that are in GDP. Conversely, there are quite a lot of things which are in GDP which are clearly of no net value to human welfare. I mean, being a divorce lawyer, perfectly good, legitimate thing to do. It's very important if one person's getting divorced that they have a good lawyer on their side. But if we have more cleverer and cleverer people being divorce lawyers, it cancels itself out. It's a zero-sum competition between different groups of people, but it's in GDP. You know, more divorce lawyers or more criminals and police or more corporate lawyers doesn't increase human welfare, but it's an inevitable part of a competition. So the more you look at what is in GDP and what is not in GDP, you realize that there are many things in GDP which cannot possibly increase net human welfare, and you realize there are many things which are underaccounted in GDP. And I think we are increasingly having to have a debate about human welfare which accepts the limitations of the GDP measure.
That's very interesting. And about this concept of zero-sum jobs, can you enter in detail about, and if you think there are policies that can be done, like to redirect our efforts? And
well, funnily enough, I think it's almost inevitable that the amount of jobs which are to some extent zero-sum will increase. Because I think in an environment where we have greater and greater ability to automate away all the sort of work that we have to do in order to deliver our food and our clothes and our building, etc., people will find things to do, and that will be debates and arguments and competition between each other for who gets a higher distribution. So we can't avoid that. Obviously, you don't want it to proliferate in completely unnecessary fashions. One of the things that's going on in America, for instance, is more and more resources put into the political process. The cost of American political campaigns just goes up through the roof. Now, but that can't be a net increase in human welfare because it's more money on the Democrat side and more money on the Republican side. I think it would be good not to have that. It would be good to make sure that legal services don't unnecessarily explode. Again, in the US, you have this incredibly litigious society where the cost of healthcare is driven up by huge numbers of legal cases being brought, saying you didn't give me the right healthcare, etc. So you can have political processes, administrative processes, legal processes, which end up producing unnecessarily large amounts of activity. On the other hand, I think we're struggling against a broad tendency in human society, which is the more that we have managed to automate away all the necessary production functions, the more we're probably going to find things to do which are somewhat zero-sum in character.
And a last question about your role, your chair of the Institute of New Economic Thinking. And do you think the debate in the economic academia is going in this direction, talking about these issues,
Well,
or if there are obstacles about that?
I think economics has shifted quite a bit. I think before the crisis of 2008, there was a very, very dominant neoclassical rational expectations, market efficiency hypothesis, which then supported a broadly laissez-faire economic ideology. There was too much faith in the benefits of globalization. There was not enough focus on distribution. And I think in a whole series of ways, the debate has been opened up. Now, I think there are still challenges. For instance, there is a very dominant role in the economics profession of a small number of peer-reviewed journals, which tend to therefore dominate the process of how people get rewarded, how people get advanced, how they get promoted by references in peer-reviewed journals. And those journals tend to have a particular way of thinking about it. So I think there are some very major challenges still, but I think we have at least got a more open debate about many aspects of economics than we did before the crisis of 2008.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Nice
Great.